When my son called his bride a fat pig in front of 200 guests, I felt something inside me die, because in that cruel moment, I realized the monster he became was the boy I raised. But that moment hadn't happened yet. That morning the world was still golden. The sun slid through the lace curtains of Amara's dressing suite, painting the room in soft gold. Her reflection in the mirror looked almost like a stranger, ivory dress hugging her curves, curls pinned with delicate pearls. She exhaled shakily, pressing her hands against her stomach. "Do I look okay, Mama?" she whispered. Her mother smiled gently from behind, eyes glistening. "You look like grace itself, baby. He's going to cry when he sees you." Amara smiled faintly, though deep inside a voice whispered, "Or laugh." Hey there, my dear family and friends. If you're already tuned in and ready to enjoy this story, hit that subscribe button, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because tomorrow I'll be bringing you another story just as captivating, and you definitely don't want to miss it. Now back to the story. She turned back to the mirror, tracing the faint stretch marks near her neckline, ghosts of years she once spent hiding behind loose clothes and self-doubt. Michael had said he loved her confidence, that he admired her boldness. But lately, his compliments had turned into teasing. Little jokes, playful jabs about cutting carbs before the big day. She tried to ignore them, telling herself love made people nervous. Still, as the makeup artist powdered her cheeks, Amara's eyes flicked to the window, toward the garden outside where laughter echoed. Across the lawn, in the groom's quarters, Michael adjusted his tie for the 10th time. His groomsman, Jake, chuckled. "You look like you're heading to a job interview, not a wedding." Michael forced a grin. "Just nervous, man. Relax. You got the girl. She adores you." Michael's grin faltered. "Yeah, she does." He turned toward the mirror. His reflection looked composed. Sharp suit, clean shave, but his stomach twisted. Jake's earlier comment about Amara, looking different lately, still lingered in his mind. He'd laughed it off, but inside, something uncomfortable stirred. He wasn't cruel by nature, but he was proud. Too proud. Raised by a mother who taught him to keep appearances perfect, who ironed his shirts twice and corrected his posture before family events. His mother's voice echoed from the hallway. "Michael, we're starting in 30 minutes. Are you ready?" "Almost, Mom." Ruth entered, elegant in a silver gown, her face a portrait of composure. She looked him over approvingly but frowned when she noticed the wrinkle at his cuff. "You should have pressed that again," she murmured, smoothing it down with her palm. Michael rolled his eyes. "It's fine, Mom. It's your wedding, Michael. Everything matters today." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Behind that smile was a woman who had built her identity around perfection. No flaw went unnoticed. Not in herself, not in her son. "Mom," he sighed, "can you just let things be imperfect today?" She froze, surprised. "Imperfect?" He hesitated, looking at her. "Maybe perfection isn't the point anymore." Ruth blinked but said nothing. He looked away. In the bridal suite, laughter erupted as Amara's bridesmaids snapped pictures. She tried to join in, smiling, laughing even, but her heart pounded. She picked up the letter she had written for Michael. Short, trembling words of love. "I don't care how I look or what they say. I just want to walk beside you forever." Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. "Are you sure you're okay, sweetheart?" Amara nodded. "Just nerves." But as she said it, her hands trembled again. The soft melody of violins filled the garden. Rows of white chairs faced the altar, where petals fluttered like whispers of blessings. Ruth stood in the front row, clutching a bouquet too tightly. She looked between her son and the aisle with the nervous devotion of a woman whose identity had always orbited around him. Then music shifted. Every head turned. Amara appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant, trembling, her eyes wet but shining. Michael's breath caught. For a moment, all tension melted. She was beautiful, real. And as their eyes met, he felt something unfamiliar. Vulnerability. Ruth's throat tightened. She saw her son's expression soften, and for a fleeting second, believed that everything broken could stay hidden. But as Amara reached the altar, she noticed Michael's jaw tighten, just slightly, as if he were holding his breath. She didn't know yet that this small, imperceptible strain would grow into a storm that would shatter her heart. That evening, as twilight fell and laughter echoed through the hall, Ruth watched her son and daughter-in-law dance for the first time. The guests clapped, cameras flashed, and champagne flowed. But in the dim glow of the chandeliers, Ruth noticed something Amara didn't, a flicker of discomfort in Michael's eyes when his friends whispered, laughing behind their glasses. And then he laughed too. A tiny, careless laugh that made Ruth's heart skip. She didn't know why, but something about it felt wrong. Have you ever felt proud of someone you love, only to suddenly see a part of them that frightened you? Comment below. What would you do if the person you loved most began to show a side you didn't recognize? The reception hall glowed under strings of golden lights. Laughter rippled through the air, glasses clinked, and a DJ's cheerful voice filled the space. 4 hours it had been perfect. Photos, speeches, blessings. Even Ruth allowed herself to relax, her smile softening with each toast. Amara moved through the crowd, greeting relatives, her gown brushing against the marble floor like a whisper. She was glowing, flushed from happiness and exhaustion. When she laughed, her eyes closed completely, a habit Michael once adored. Michael, meanwhile, stood surrounded by friends from college, laughter louder now, champagne fueling his nerves. His best man Jake nudged him, whispering with a grin. "Bro, your wife can eat, huh? I saw her take that extra slice of cake." The group chuckled. Michael should have brushed it off. Should have said she's perfect as she is. But the insecurity he'd carried all day, the silent fear of judgment, of whispers about her weight, about his choice, began to gnaw at him. He laughed. Too loudly. "Yeah, she's not exactly shy around food." They roared. And the moment passed. Or so he thought. Hours later, the dance floor filled again. Amara, glowing with love, took Michael's hand. "Come dance with me," she smiled. He hesitated, but she pulled him gently. The crowd cheered as they moved to the rhythm of an old romantic song. "See," she whispered. "We made it. Everything's perfect." And for a moment he almost believed her. Then Jake's voice cut through the music. "Hey, Michael. Careful, man, she might crush your shoes." Laughter erupted. Michael froze. He should have stopped it. Should have defended her. But something ugly inside him, that dark, defensive pride, clawed its way out. He smirked, then, in a split second of stupidity and ego, blurted, "Yeah, she's acting like a fat pig tonight." The microphone caught it. The speakers echoed it. Silence swallowed the room. The music died. A fork clattered against a plate somewhere. Amara's smile froze. Her eyes blinked once, twice, as if her brain refused to register what she'd just heard. The laughter around them died like a candle snuffed by wind. What did you just say?" she whispered. Michael's heart stuttered. "Amara, it was a joke." Joke. The word cut her deeper than the insult. Her face went pale, then flushed crimson. The sound of her mother's gasp, the murmurs of guests, the camera flash, everything blurred. "Michael!" Ruth whispered sharply, eyes wide with horror. But he was frozen, half drunk, half ashamed, unable to undo what had just left his mouth. Then Amara laughed. A broken, trembling sound that wasn't laughter at all. "You called me a pig. On our wedding day." Her voice cracked. Every eye turned toward them. The DJ didn't move. The photographer's camera hung useless. Ruth stepped forward, voice trembling. "Michael, that's enough." But it was too late. Amara stepped back. Her lips quivered as she fought for air. "You promised me. You said you loved me no matter what." He reached out. "Amara, please, I didn't mean." She flinched away as if his touch burned. The crowd began to murmur. One voice whispered, "Disgraceful." Another, "Poor girl." Tears broke free down Amara's cheeks, streaking her foundation. She turned toward her mother, whispering, I can't breathe. Her mother caught her before she fell. Ruth rushed forward, fury and shame battling within her chest. Michael Jonathan, what have you done? He ran a hand through his hair, panic flickering in his eyes. Mom, I didn't mean. Everyone was laughing. Do you hear yourself? Ruth's voice was sharp, shaking. You humiliated her. Your wife. But he wasn't listening. The world around him had collapsed into noise. Guests began to leave their seats, whispering, some shaking their heads in disgust. Amara's bridesmaids gathered around her, shielding her like a fragile glass sculpture. Then Amara turned to him, voice trembling but clear. You told me you loved me for who I am. Was that ever true? Or were you always ashamed of me? Her words pierced deeper than any slap could have. He opened his mouth but no sound came. His throat constricted under the weight of her gaze, the same eyes that once saw him as her world. She stepped away, her mother guiding her out through the side door as murmurs followed like ghosts. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed across the silent hall. Ruth stood still, staring at the space where her daughter-in-law had disappeared. Around her, the guests avoided her eyes. One woman muttered, "He gets that from her." The word stung. Ruth's breath caught, shame crawling up her spine. Michael sank into a chair, face buried in his hands. Ruth whispered, "Dear God, what have I raised?" Later, as the staff began to clear the tables, Ruth found herself alone amid scattered petals and half-empty glasses. The laughter that had filled the room just hours ago now echoed in her memory like a mockery. Her son sat in the corner, pale, eyes blank. She wanted to hold him. She wanted to shake him. Instead, she whispered, "Do you even realize what you've done?" Michael looked up, tears brimming. "It was just one word." "One word can destroy a life," she said. He looked away. "She'll forgive me." Ruth's voice cracked. "No, son. Not this time. If you were Amara, publicly humiliated on your wedding day, would you forgive or walk away forever? Tell me in the comments. What does love mean when words cut this deep? The wedding suite smelled of wilted roses and expensive perfume. Amara sat by the window, still in her wedding gown, hands trembling around a glass of untouched water. The tiara that once crowned her joy now sat lopsided on the vanity. Her mother, Mrs. Okafor, knelt beside her, whispering soft Igbo prayers under her breath. "My daughter, breathe. Let it go. Don't let his words destroy you." Amara's voice came out hoarse. "Mama, he called me a pig. In front of everyone." Her mother's eyes glistened. "I know. But you must not let shame swallow you. That boy, he's broken. Not you." Meanwhile, downstairs, Ruth stood in the corridor outside the bridal suite, pacing. Every sound from inside made her flinch. Michael leaned against the wall, still in his tuxedo, eyes red, voice low. "Mom, please. I need to talk to her." Ruth turned sharply. "You need to face what you did first." "I already apologized." "Did you? Or did you just want her to stop crying so you could feel better?" He swallowed hard. "It was the champagne. I wasn't thinking." Ruth's face softened with pity, then hardened again. "That's not true, Michael. You've been thinking those things for months. I've heard how you talk about her weight when you think no one's listening." He blinked. "Mom, don't you dare mom me." Her voice shook. "You made her believe she was loved. And tonight you showed her your truth." Michael pressed his palms against his face, voice breaking. "I just felt people were judging me, okay? Jake said things, they were laughing. And so you joined them." Ruth's voice rose. "To impress your friends. You tore your wife down to feed your pride." He turned away, jaw tight. "You don't understand. Everyone always expects me to be perfect." Ruth laughed bitterly. "Perfect? My son, you just became the punchline of your own wedding." He flinched. Inside the room, Amara's bridesmaids gathered her things quietly. One of them, Tola, muttered under her breath, "I told her he was immature." Another, Chioma, shot her a look. "Not now." But Amara heard it. And her heart clenched. Immature. Well, what Michael did wasn't childish. It was cruel. Calculated or not, it was cruelty that revealed truth. She stood up slowly, staring at her reflection. The gown, once a symbol of forever, now felt like a costume from a tragedy. Her voice trembled. He always joked about my size, but I thought it was harmless. I thought love meant he saw past it. Her mother's hand tightened on hers. My child, real love never mocks. Tears filled Amara's eyes again. How do I face everyone tomorrow? They'll replay that clip, laugh behind my back. Even my cousins recorded it. Ruth's knock startled them. Amara, please, can we talk? Her mother stepped toward the door, voice stern. Mrs. Anderson, I think you've done enough for one night. But Ruth's voice cracked. Please. I'm not defending him. I just need her to hear me. After a long silence, Amara spoke softly. Let her in. Ruth stepped inside, eyes red from crying. She looked smaller somehow, the proud mother now weighed down by guilt. Amara, she whispered, I came to apologize. I don't know how to face you. I raised him better than this. Amara's lips trembled. Did you? The question sliced cleanly through the room. Ruth blinked, pain flashing across her face. You're right to ask that. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I let his pride grow because I was too busy protecting him from consequences. Her voice broke. But please no. I'm ashamed. Deeply. Amara stared at her, torn between anger and sorrow. He looked at me like I was less than human. I can't unhear that. Ruth nodded slowly. I understand. You shouldn't forgive him tonight. Maybe not ever. Amara's tears spilled. Then why are you here? Because I need you to know someone in this family sees your worth. You didn't deserve that. Outside the door, Michael listened, trembling. Every word stabbed deeper than the silence after his insult. He pressed his ear against the wood as Ruth continued softly. You have every right to walk away. But if you ever decide to talk, I'll be here. As a mother, not an accomplice. She turned toward the door. For a moment, her eyes met Michael's through the crack. He looked broken, desperate. Don't go in yet, she whispered. Let her breathe. But guilt doesn't wait for permission. As Ruth left, Michael pushed the door open. The room froze. Amara turned slowly, eyes hollow. Why are you here? She asked quietly. He stepped forward, voice trembling. To say I'm sorry. You said that downstairs. I mean it this time. His voice cracked. I love you. I swear I didn't. Stop. Her tone was sharp now. You love me. You love me enough to make me a joke on our wedding day. His chest heaved. I was drunk. Then you must be drunk every day, Michael, she said bitterly. Because I've seen this version of you before. The one who teases me in front of your friends. The one who laughs when I say it hurts. He froze. Amara took a deep breath, her strength slowly returning. I ignored it because I wanted to believe love could fix it. But love doesn't erase cruelty. It only hides it, until a microphone amplifies it. Her mother's eyes filled with pride. Her daughter was reclaiming her voice. Michael dropped to his knees. Please, Amara. Don't leave me. But Amara turned away, voice quiet yet resolute. Tonight I realized something. You didn't break me, Michael. You revealed yourself. Ruth stood outside, tears running silently down her cheeks. Her son's muffled sobs filled the hall. She pressed her palm to the wall, whispering, God, give me strength to let him fall. Because for the first time she knew. Protecting him meant enabling him. And this time, love had to mean letting him face what he'd done. If you were Ruth, torn between your son's pain and the truth of his cruelty, would you protect him or let him bear the consequences? Tell me below. What would you do as a mother? The night deepened. The guests were gone. The banquet hall stood empty, except for scattered rose petals, overturned chairs, and the faint echo of what once was laughter. Ruth sat alone in a corner, her head in her hands. The silence was unbearable. She could still hear it, that word. The way her son's voice carried through the speakers. The way Amara's face shattered. She closed her eyes, whispering to herself, "Where did I go wrong?" In her mind, memories flickered like broken film. She saw Michael as a boy, standing in front of a mirror, frowning. "I'm not handsome like the others," he had said. And she, wanting to comfort him, had replied, "You're perfect. You're better than them. You're my son." Years later, when he came home from school bragging about mocking another boy's stutter, Ruth had scolded him mildly, but still smiled when he said, "At least I'm not weak like him." That was the day she'd mistaken arrogance for confidence. Now she saw it clearly. She'd built his pride like armor, never realizing it would turn into a weapon. A weapon he'd one day use against the woman who loved him most. Her heart clenched. "God forgive me," she whispered. Upstairs, Amara sat at the vanity, still wearing the wedding dress. Her fingers had stopped shaking. The tears were gone, replaced by a stillness so heavy it frightened her mother. Mrs. Okafor spoke softly. "Amara, we can go home now. I've called your uncle. He'll send the car in the morning." Amara nodded slowly. "Mama, I'm not sure what home means anymore." Her mother frowned. "Don't say that. Home is where peace lives." Amara looked at her reflection. Mascara smeared, curls wilted, eyes hollow. "Peace left when he looked at me like I was something to be ashamed of." A knock came at the door. Ruth again. This time she didn't ask to come in. She spoke softly through the wood. "Mrs. Okafor. Amara, please hear me out." Her voice broke. "I won't defend him. I just need to tell you something before you go." Mrs. Okafor hesitated, then opened the door slightly. Ruth stepped inside, holding a small velvet box, the one that once held her wedding ring. "I wore this for 30 years, Ruth said, placing it gently on the table. "My husband gave it to me when we were young. He wasn't kind either. He used to say words that left bruises no one could see." Amara looked up, startled. Ruth nodded. "I thought silence was strength. I stayed for my son. I didn't realize my silence was teaching him how to treat love." Tears filled Amara's eyes again, not just for herself, but for the generations of pain that shaped the man she'd married. Ruth knelt before her, voice trembling. "You don't owe him forgiveness. But you owe yourself freedom. Please don't stay trapped in what I created." Downstairs, Michael sat in the dark, head buried in his hands. His phone buzzed. Jake's text flashing on the screen. "Bro, what happened?" "The video's already online." His stomach dropped. He opened the link. There was the clip. His face on the big screen, smirking. His voice echoing. "Yeah, she's acting like a fat pig tonight." The comment section was brutal. "Disgusting. Who marries a man like that? Poor woman." Michael's throat closed. He threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. Then the guilt hit him like a wave. He staggered to his feet and looked at his reflection in the window. Who was he now? A man who destroyed his own wedding with one cruel sentence. He whispered to the empty room. "I'm my father's son." Back upstairs, Ruth stood to leave. Amara stopped her. "Mrs. Anderson." Ruth turned, eyes swollen. "Thank you," Amara said quietly. "For being honest. For not pretending." Ruth's lip trembled. "You deserved a mother-in-law who would have protected you from him. I failed you too." Amara shook her head. "You're trying now. That matters." Their eyes met. Two women, both victims in different ways, finally seeing each other clearly. As Ruth left the room, she found Michael at the bottom of the stairs. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. "Mom!" She stopped midway. "Don't call me that right now." He blinked, stunned. Ruth's voice was quiet but sharp. "Do you know what it means to be a man, Michael? It's not power. It's not pride. It's protecting what you love, not humiliating it." He looked down, ashamed. She stepped closer. "You've hurt a woman who would have given you her whole heart. And now you must live with that. He whispered. How do I fix it? You can't, she said simply. Some wounds don't heal with apologies. He turned away. You'll learn when you've lost everything. Hours later, dawn crept in, soft, pink and cruel. Amara stood by the window, veil gone, hair loose. The birds were singing. It almost felt like mockery. Her mother's suitcase was packed. Ruth's car waited outside. She took one last look at the bed covered in flowers, the gown she once dreamed of wearing, and whispered, I came here as a bride. I'm leaving as a lesson. Her mother touched her arm gently. No, my daughter. You're leaving as a woman who finally knows her worth. As they walked out, Ruth stood by the door, tears in her eyes. Amara, she called softly. Amara turned. Ruth whispered, I hope one day, when the pain fades, you'll find a love that doesn't need to make you small to feel big. Amara nodded faintly. I hope your son learns the same. And with that she left. The door closed, quietly, but with the finality of an ending. That morning, as Ruth watched Amara's car disappear down the road, she whispered the words she had never said before. I forgive myself, but I will not protect him anymore. And for the first time in years, Ruth felt something like peace. Painful but pure. Morning came like a thief, stealing away what little peace was left. The wedding venue, once vibrant, looked like an abandoned battlefield. Ruth sat in her kitchen with the morning paper untouched. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Family members, church friends, even journalists. The story had spread faster than she could have imagined. Groom calls bride a fat pig at wedding. Humiliation caught on camera. Viral video sparks outrage. Her son's name was everywhere. Michael Anderson. Every time she saw it, she felt the sting anew. The name she'd once been proud of now synonymous with cruelty. She finally silenced the phone and whispered, Let it burn. Maybe that's what it takes for him to learn. Meanwhile, across town, Amara sat in her mother's apartment. The morning sunlight filtered through lace curtains, casting golden stripes across her face. She hadn't slept. Her phone too was flooded. Texts from friends, sympathy messages, online strangers sending love. But none of it felt real. What echoed in her mind wasn't the insult, or the video, or even the pity. It was his laughter. The way he smirked before the word left his lips. She pressed her palm to her chest. Why does it still hurt to love him? Her mother entered quietly with a cup of tea. Drink this, Amara. I don't think tea can fix humiliation, Mama, she murmured. No, her mother said, setting it down. But it helps you remember you're alive. Down in his apartment, Michael sat in the dark, blinds drawn. His phone blinked with unread messages. His voicemail was full. He hadn't eaten. He'd watched the video dozens of times, torturing himself with every frame. He'd seen the moment her face broke, and something inside him shattered too. He remembered the way his father used to call his mother names. Too slow. Too dumb, too soft, and how Ruth for years had stood silent, eyes downcast, smile fixed. Michael used to hate that silence. But now, he realized he'd inherited both the cruelty and the cowardice. He whispered, I've become the man I swore I'd never be. A knock came at the door. He ignored it. Then another. And another. He finally opened it. Ruth stood there. Pale, exhausted, holding a small photo album. Mom! Don't speak, she said softly, walking past him. She placed the album on the table and opened it. It was filled with old photos. His father, himself as a child, Ruth smiling thinly beside them. You see this? She asked. Every picture looks happy. But behind every smile, I was dying inside. Michael looked down. I thought if I endured long enough, your father would change, she continued. But I was teaching you something else, that a woman's pain doesn't matter. Tears welled in her eyes. And last night you proved me right. He looked broken. I didn't mean to be like him, Mom. I know, she said softly. But you are. And only you can decide if that ends now. He sank to the floor, sobbing. I've lost her. Haven't I? Ruth's expression softened, but she didn't comfort him. Maybe losing her is the only thing that'll make you find yourself. That afternoon, Ruth made a decision. She picked up her phone and called the one person who could still help him, Amara. When Amara answered, her voice was quiet, cautious. Ruth. Yes. I won't ask you to forgive him. But there's something you should know before you decide what comes next. Amara hesitated. What is it? Ruth took a shaky breath. I stayed with Michael's father far too long. He was cruel. With words mostly. I thought I was protecting my son. But all I did was pass down the poison. Silence. I'm not asking you to save him, Ruth continued, voice trembling. But I want you to understand. He learned cruelty as a language of fear. And maybe, he doesn't know another way to feel powerful. Amara's throat tightened. That doesn't excuse what he did. It doesn't, Ruth agreed. But it explains the wound. He paused. And sometimes knowing the wound is the first step to healing it, for both of you. Amara whispered. You really believe he can change? Ruth smiled sadly. I believe pain can teach us what love failed to. Then she added, the choice is yours, my dear. Walk away if you must. But don't let this pain define you. After the call ended, Amara sat quietly, her thoughts tangled between anger and empathy. She remembered the way Michael used to look at her, like she was his safe place. She remembered how he used to hold her during thunderstorms and whisper, You're my calm. That man still existed somewhere, buried under layers of shame and pride. She whispered, But is he worth my healing? That evening, she stepped outside for the first time since the wedding. The city was alive, oblivious. Cars honked. Children laughed. Life had moved on, but she hadn't. A small group of teenagers passed by, giggling over their phones. She overheard one say, That wedding video. Ugh, I'd die if that was me. Amara froze. Her heart clenched. That's when she realized the world would not forget soon. She could hide, or she could rise. She straightened her shoulders. I won't be defined by one man's weakness. Back in his apartment, Michael opened his laptop. His inbox was full of hate. One message stood out, from an unknown sender. Do better. Men like you ruin good women. He stared at it for a long time. Then, without thinking, he opened a blank email. He began to type. Subject to my wife. Mura. There is no apology that can undo what I did. I humiliated you. I broke something sacred. And I now understand that the word I said didn't come from you. It came from the broken boy I still am. The one who grew up watching love twisted into pain. If you never speak to me again, I'll understand. But if you ever do, I promise to show you the man I should have been that night. Not with words, but with the way I live from now on. Michael. He hovered over send, then pressed it. Ruth watched from the window as her son sat alone under the weight of his actions. She whispered, Let this be the beginning of your becoming, my boy. And somewhere across the city, Amara's phone buzzed. She looked at the sender's name. And for the first time since that night, she didn't cry. She just whispered, Maybe this pain has purpose. Do you believe people who break your heart out of their own pain deserve a second chance? Or is that just another trap? Share your thoughts below. The night air was heavy with silence. Guests had long dispersed, whispers trailing like ghosts into the dark. Inside the family mansion, the chandeliers still burned, cruelly bright against the gloom sitting between Michael, Amara, and Mrs. Daniels. Amara sat on the edge of the couch, her makeup smeared, her wedding dress wrinkled and stained from tears. Michael stood by the bar, a drink untouched in his hand. His eyes hollow. Mrs. Daniels, arms crossed, leaned against the doorway, watching her son with a stillness that carried more weight than words. Say something, Michael muttered finally, his voice cracking. Mrs. Daniels didn't move. What do you want me to say, Michael? That you're sorry. That this was just a mistake. Her tone cut through him like glass. He turned toward her. You think I don't know I messed up? His jaw clenched. I panicked. Everyone was staring. She looked. He stopped mid-sentence as his mother's sharp glare silenced him. She looked what? She asked quietly. Michael hesitated. Different. I didn't expect. Mrs. Daniels's voice rose. You didn't expect what? A real woman. Someone who loved you enough to stand by you even when you didn't deserve it. The words hit him hard. His mother stepped closer, her voice trembling but firm. Do you even hear yourself? You humiliated that girl in front of everyone. You tore her open with your words because you were afraid of being judged. You acted like your pride was worth more than her dignity. Michael dropped his gaze, his breathing uneven. I didn't mean it, he whispered. But you did, his mother shot back. You meant every word because it came from the place you've refused to face. Your fear of being less. And now you've made her feel less too. The tension snapped. Amara stood, her hands trembling. You both can stop pretending I'm still part of this. Her voice was quiet, but it sliced through the air. I didn't marry a man who panics. I married someone I thought would protect me, not destroy me. She slipped off her wedding ring and placed it on the table. The sound of metal on glass echoed through the room. Mrs. Daniels's face crumpled. Michael's breath caught. Amara, please, he started, but she held up her hand. No, Michael. You don't get to ask me to stay. You don't get to fix this tonight. I spent years trying to love myself. You took that from me in one sentence. She turned to Mrs. Daniels, her eyes softer now. Thank you for standing up for me. You didn't have to. The older woman's eyes glistened. I had to. Because I raised a son who forgot what love looks like. Without another word, Amara walked out, her veil dragging across the floor, like a ghost leaving behind the ruins of a dream. The door closed. Michael sank to his knees, his sobs breaking the stillness. Mrs. Daniels watched her son cry, not with pity, but with the hollow ache of a mother who finally saw the cracks in her own reflection. 3 days had passed since the wedding, or what was left of it. The tabloids were already feeding on the story. Groom shames bride at the altar. Michael's company issued a statement. His business partner refused to take his calls. Clients withdrew projects quietly. He had gone from the golden boy of Lagos Tech to a social pariah overnight. The mansion felt like a tomb. Every room smelled of wilted roses and regret. Mrs. Daniels hadn't spoken to him since that night. Her disappointment filled the silence more than her words ever could. Michael sat in his father's old study, staring at the same mirror that once hung in his childhood room. He barely recognized the man staring back, unshaven, bloodshot eyes. His tie still around his neck from 3 days ago. He replayed the moment again. The gasp. The look on Amara's face. The guests frozen in disbelief. He wanted to forget. But the shame clung to him like smoke. The door opened quietly. Mrs. Daniels entered, carrying a tray of untouched food. She placed it down and stood there, observing him. You haven't eaten, she said simply. I'm not hungry. She exhaled, sitting opposite him. Do you know what hurts me most? Michael didn't look up. That night when you opened your mouth, I didn't see my son. I saw your father. Michael froze. Don't. No, she cut in. You need to hear this. He did the same thing to me for years. Hid his shame behind cruelty, mocked my weight, my looks, my choices. I stayed silent to protect you. But all that silence raised a man who thinks love is dominance, not kindness. Her voice trembled. I let it happen, and now I see it living in you. Tears filled Michael's eyes. I'm not him, Mum. She looked at him long and hard. Then prove it. Michael's throat tightened. She won't even answer my calls, he whispered. She moved out of the apartment. Blocked me on everything. Then start with yourself, Mrs. Daniels said softly. You can't ask forgiveness when you haven't forgiven who you became. He nodded, his tears falling freely now. I want to make it right. Then go, she said. Not to beg, but to listen. To face her pain, not hide from it. Michael wiped his face, his voice barely audible. What if she doesn't forgive me? Then you live with that, his mother said, standing up. And maybe that will be your lesson. Redemption isn't about being forgiven. It's about being changed. The room fell silent again. Michael finally picked up the tray, pushed the food aside, and instead grabbed his phone. No social media, no explanations. Just a text. To Amara. I don't expect you to read this. I only want to say that I saw what I did through your eyes. And it broke me. You didn't deserve my weakness. I'm going to fix myself, even if it's too late for us. I just hope someday when you think of me it doesn't hurt anymore. He pressed send. Then, for the first time since that day, he walked outside, into the same world he had once ruled, now humbled, small, and utterly human. 6 months later. The city had moved on. The gossip had faded, replaced by newer scandals and fresher heartbreaks. But for Amara, healing was slower, quieter. It lived in her morning walks, her therapy sessions, and in the way she could now look in the mirror without flinching. She had left the apartment she shared with Michael and started working again. Freelance graphic design, mostly from home. Her days were filled with soft music, her dog, and the rhythm of starting over. Still, some nights, she woke up remembering that moment. The way the laughter had stopped, the way everyone had stared, the way he had stared. But she didn't cry anymore. Not because it stopped hurting, but because she had learned that pain could be recycled into strength. That afternoon, she was at a cafe downtown, sipping iced coffee and sketching a logo concept when she saw him, standing across the street. Michael. He looked different. Simpler. No designer suit, no air of arrogance. Just a plain white shirt, jeans, and eyes that had forgotten how to hide. He didn't approach immediately, just waited by the curb, hesitant, almost afraid. Amara froze, her heart pounding, unsure if she wanted to run or listen. Finally, she sighed and nodded slightly. He took that as permission and walked over. When he stopped in front of her, he didn't reach out. He just said softly, "Hi." She looked at him, expression unreadable. "Hi." There was a pause that felt like a lifetime. He swallowed hard. "I know you don't owe me a single second of this, but thank you." "For what?" she asked flatly. "For not destroying me. You could have gone online, told your side. You didn't." Amara smiled faintly, sad but composed. "I didn't need to. You destroyed yourself." Michael nodded, accepting it like a truth he'd rehearsed 1,000 times. "You're right. I did." He exhaled, trembling slightly. "I've been in therapy. I've been trying to understand where that moment came from. My mom, she told me things I never knew. About how I learned to treat people. About how I confused pride with strength." Amara looked at him for the first time, really looked, and saw not the man who shamed her, but a man stripped of excuses. "I'm not here to win you back," Michael said quietly. "I just wanted you to know I'm changing. Not to fix what I broke, but so I never become that man again." The cafe fell silent around them. Amara breathed in slowly. "You hurt me," she said finally. "In a way I didn't think I could recover from. But I did. And maybe that's the only good thing that came from you." He nodded, a small tear escaping. "I'll take that." Amara stood, gathering her sketchbook. She looked at him, not with hate, not even with forgiveness, but with calm detachment. "Michael," she said softly, "I hope you find peace. But we can't rewrite that day. It happened, changed me. And I'm okay with that." She turned to leave but paused. "Tell your mom, thank you. She did what you couldn't, she saw me." And with that, she walked away, the sunlight catching her veil of natural curls, the sound of her heels fading into the hum of the city. Michael stood there for a long time, watching her disappear into the crowd, until she was gone, and all that remained was the weight of his choices and the quiet grace of the woman he had once broken. He smiled faintly, whispering to himself, "Maybe that's love. Letting go and learning from the wreckage." 3 months later. The Daniels' home had grown quieter. The once bustling house where laughter, pride, and tension used to echo now felt like a place of reflection. Mrs. Daniels sat in the garden that morning, pruning her roses, the same ones Amara had helped her plant the week before the wedding. She still tended them every Sunday, carefully, like healing something sacred that had once been broken. The gate creaked. Michael's car pulled up. He looked hesitant, hands gripping the steering wheel for a moment before stepping out. His mother turned, her eyes warm but cautious. "Hi, Mom." "Michael." He walked over and sat on the bench beside her, staring at the roses. "They look beautiful. They survived the dry season," she said softly. "I wasn't sure they would, but they did. Some roots just know how to hold on." Michael nodded, hearing the subtext. For a while they just sat there, the silence between them no longer heavy with anger, but full of understanding. Finally Mrs. Daniels spoke. "I saw Amara last week at the bookstore. She looked well, happy even." Michael smiled faintly. "She deserves to be." His mother looked at him, studying his face. There were tired lines now, but also softness, something real. "I'm proud of you," she said. He blinked, caught off guard. "Proud?" "Yes, because you didn't run. You faced yourself." He swallowed hard. "I had to, Mom. I can't erase what I did, but I can choose who I'll be next." Mrs. Daniels nodded slowly. "That's what redemption looks like, son. Not pretending the wound never existed, but letting it teach you how to love better." A long pause followed. Then she added quietly, "You know, you and Amara were both broken that day, but in different ways. And sometimes, healing doesn't mean coming back together. It means learning how to live separately, without bitterness." Michael smiled faintly, his eyes glistening. "She taught me more by walking away than I ever learned while she stayed." Mrs. Daniels touched his hand, the same hand she once held as a boy, now rougher, steadier. "You're my son. Love you. But I also love the man you're still becoming." He closed his eyes for a moment, exhaling deeply, as if letting go of something he'd carried for too long. "I'm thinking of volunteering," he said. "At that youth shelter Amara used to support. Maybe help with their art program." His mother smiled, proud tears forming. "That sounds like something worth doing." They sat in silence again, the soft wind brushing past them, petals falling gently onto the grass. A single rose petal landed on Michael's hand. He stared at it, fragile, bright, alive. He whispered to himself, "Some beauty only grows after you lose everything." Mrs. Daniels heard it, and her eyes softened. She whispered back, "And sometimes love doesn't end in marriage, it ends in growth." The camera would fade out there, on the roses swaying in the breeze, sunlight washing over the garden, symbolizing quiet rebirth.
Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this video, and I'm confident you enjoyed it. We've got plenty more exciting and heartwarming stories waiting for you. Just click on the image on your screen to watch the next one.